Real-time host Bill Maher spars with big-time Hollywood director Rob Reiner over conversations reaching across the political divide. Now, Reiner says there should be conditions met before the right and left in America talk to each other. Watch.
You're going to try to talk to somebody, and you have a point of view. The other person has a point of view. Before you have the exchange, you have to agree on certain facts.
No, you don't. You can't. Once you start down that road,
no.
It's like these are. You just have to talk to people.
No, you talk to people. But if somebody says 2 + 2 is 4, and the other guy says no, it's not, how do you begin the discussion?
Because Rob, that's a slippery slope.
I'm so curious to hear your thoughts on this as you lead one of the most popular political podcasts in history. What is your take on this?
I mean, I'm a little uncomfortable with how much I'm agreeing with Bill Maher lately. But he's absolutely right. And, you know, the thing is, I worked on Capitol Hill for an awful long time, and you got to know Republicans and Democrats, all kinds of different people. I found that a sense of humor goes a long way of just bridging divides. If you sit down with, like, Rob Reiner and you're going to argue about, like, Medicaid policy, like, that doesn't sound like a lot of fun, and you're probably going to end up in a fight in an awful lot of ways. But if you have shared experiences and you're talking about families and kids and you're laughing about what is the ridiculousness of politics, which, by the way, if you can't laugh about that, if you find anybody who can't laugh about today's politics, they have no sense of humor, and it doesn't matter whether they're Republican or Democrat, you probably shouldn't be hanging out with them because it's hilarious. But yes, this is the conversation that needs to happen, but also just this collective community and neighborhood again, where people just sort of care about each other regardless of what your views are or boxes you check. And it doesn't mean that you don't have your own convictions. It just means having a little humanity in the process.
Yeah, well said. I felt, Kaylee, that the two of them sort of had different expectations of what they were talking about. Because it seemed to me that Rob was sort of in there to have the two sides reach an agreement, whereas Bill Maher was just fostering the possibility of a conversation where you just listen to one another.
Yeah, I think that's a great and admirable thing. I mean, I had many such conversations in liberal academia, and they were powerful and meaningful, and it's great to have that. But not to make this a totally partisan segment, but I have to, because Rob Reiner said you have to agree on certain facts. Okay, there's some people he needs to excise from his circles. I'm not sure if he's friends with Jimmy Kimmel, but a fact is that we know this assassin had a left-wing motive. And Jimmy Kimmel went on and said the exact opposite. That was a lie. And then you have Kamala Harris, who has now said twice this was the closest election in history. If we want a common set of facts, start by looking within, start by looking at your own party, because we can all agree with authorities there was a left-wing motive, but you have Jimmy Kimmel out there denying facts.
Right. So wouldn't a conversation then be the great place to say, actually, sir, here's the statistics. It wasn't close at all.
No, I think you brought up such a great point that one person is just trying to listen and talking about connecting, and the other person's trying to win an argument and nitpick at things. You know, we talk about how do we get to this point? I really think it starts really, really at a basic level. And this is why it's so important that people get back to the dinner table and have dinner. You know, families also don't agree on everything. And you learn how to have, you know, those kinds of conversations around the dinner table, because it's so much easier around a dinner table because you have so much in common and you love each other. And if you can take that feeling of, like you said, the humanity into another, I mean, that's where you learn. And then, you know, we have to do a better job at our universities. I'm so sick of diversity of everything except diversity of thought at our universities. And, you know, the big Fox News alert to me about Harvard was that we were giving money to them. We shouldn't give money to these universities, but we certainly shouldn't give money to universities that don't have some sort of parity in thought when it comes to, and philosophies and ideologies when it comes to our professors.
Yeah, when I did this, I realized it was a scroll, and that just dates me. Apparently, I am from the 1500s. Laura, here's what I was thinking about with you, that in the entertainment industry, you know, people consume and appreciate what you give them, and that people can certainly lead by example. Can't the entertainment industry set a new trend of civil discourse so that it's not just happening on campus led by Turning Point, but that it actually also is showcased in radio and podcasts and on television, where people see two hosts that sit down and have a civil, thoughtful conversation instead of sort of monetizing the argument and the soundbite?
Well, I think that would be lovely. Can we do that, Hollywood? I would love that. The problem that I find, though, is that I think a lot of their arguments they know would be negated immediately.
Yeah.
It's why they got so upset over Charlie, because he was able to completely dismantle their arguments with maybe a sentence or two. That's all it took. What I was thinking about as I was listening to these two men go back and forth, and I agree, the times that I'm agreeing with Bill Maher shocks me these days, but I kind of love it.
He's coming to your side.
He really is.
It's not you. That's not that you're coming to.
Yes, no, I agree with
Fair
that.
observation.
But what I thought about was Dean Phillips. He ran for president as a Democrat, and there's this very interesting interview where he says, you know what I did? I recently was across the street from a Trump rally. This was back like a year and a half ago. He says, I was kind of curious, and I wasn't sure what I was going to get. But I walked over to that Trump rally, and you know what? I was welcomed. Everyone was happy to see me there. The atmosphere was positive and very inviting and welcoming. I think some of these people have been given such bad information. They're like, let's just cancel everybody on the other side of the aisle. This is from the left. If Rob Reiner would like, I can set up for him a trip to a Trump rally, and maybe we can totally change his mind on all the things. I think people are often shocked how much more we have in common than we are, and then, you know, we have differences. And I think it's time we got back to the basis of who we are as a country, which is civil discourse and sitting down and talking to one another. It's pretty basic.
Bravo. All right.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.